So now we still have one more thing to.
What is this?
So yeah. Let me. I haven't downloaded.
Yes, so we still have my talk. I also promised to talk about theory-based annotation of social data, and I think I will start by introducing myself while we are still getting my slides online. I'm Krista Lagus. I'm professor of digital social science at the Center of Social Data Science, so the unit that is now hosting this event or co-hosting it with digital humanities people. And I chose this topic because I'm actually from information computer science, from modeling language, neural networks. Nowadays, everything is called AI, all of it. And then I ended up interested in social questions, understanding the social interactions, and that's then realized that society has kind of a lot of work, and now I'm here at the Faculty of Social Sciences, but I'm still having this background, and it has been kind of a kind of long journey to understand what social scientists are trying to do. And one of the things that I'm still trying to grasp is the social theories, because when I was working with language modeling and so on, there was a lot of language theories, and they were being operationalized in terms of annotated data sets. And there was a lot of kind of activity on that, and that's why we have now ChatGPT and things like that, because we have done this research over maybe 40 decades, quite actively and in large numbers. And it also involved a phase where the language was a source of theorizing, and the applications to real data were small scale. But then digital humanities kind of expanded the whole, computational linguistics expanded the field, and now we have the current situation. The same has not yet happened in social sciences, and I'm kind of waiting. When will it happen? And I'm expecting that it will happen, but it takes a little bit more time. And this is kind of inspired, kind of part of the missing links, I think, is the link between social theories, like a multitude of theories, and they're operationalized to data. And I'm not a social scientist, so I'm really a bad example of a person to be doing this, but because I don't see it so much, so I'm doing it, so that maybe you can do it better, or somebody can do it better. And how does this work? Okay. Nothing works. Sometimes nothing works. Yes. So I believe this is possible, that we can pick a social theory and it can be operationalized into coding. Like in social sciences, this is called, I've learned, this is called coding. In computational linguistics, it's often called annotating or tagging. Also, these terminology differences have taken a lot of time. You kind of need to learn a new language to enter this field. But this is how I understand it, and it could have, I mean, perhaps the social scientists could say something different, but it seems to me from the outside that social scientists starts with kind of thinking about the problem area and then thinking about the theory, that they start to kind of taking a perspective to the problem with the theory, and maybe formulating some research questions. And then once they get to collecting data, it is often small data, like predominantly small data. Of course, examples like Salla-Maria Laaksonen, whom we heard today, show that there is also large data, social scientists working with that. But quite many are still working on small data and using qualitative analysis through and through. And the data can be heterogeneous and it can be analyzed using a mixture of different kinds of methods. And one of the other things that I've learned is that that one of the parts that the social scientist does is tries to come up with the concepts. It can be even a small number of concepts that are somehow key to understanding the phenomenon and for expressing it for others. And it's kind of a discovery process. So until now, I think we are kind of also aligned with something that connects with language. And then throughout this qualitative research process, they can define or refine or develop a coding framework, which they then try to apply systematically and kind of coherently to their data. And then out of that, analyze and summarize some findings about the research question that they were having. So this may be a simplified, but this is what I've understood. Maybe we can learn more of this later, but anyway. So what are the challenges of this process? Well, collecting, so of course, when research is done by a single researcher, it is typically small, but nowadays we have even more collaboration also in social sciences. So it is conceivable that also large data sets can be collected, and with the digital devices and kind of the current advances in the sphere of infrastructures and technologies, it is becoming possible to actually collect large social sciences related data sets to questions. And then the question would be, would the researcher want to collect this large data if they cannot fathom a way of analyzing it? And the answer is no. For example, in survey research, people don't want to insert open-ended questions to big surveys because they don't expect that they can analyze the open answers. So we see it already in survey research, but we also see it in the imaginary research projects that social scientists, they don't even imagine big projects unless they can imagine a way of analyzing the data. So we have to come up with the imagination of analyzing the data so that they can then imagine a big project. So, and since the large language models appeared, and especially ChatGPT appeared to the use of everybody, there is no longer denying the possibility of large-scale analysis. And I mean, we are still in some kind of intermediate phase. We're still struggling with the methodologies and the workflows, with the technologies and understanding them and understanding how to use them. But I'm talking about what we can do in the coming years, I think coming years and coming decades. If we can apply these large language models for coding these research materials, it is conceivable that we can arrive at systematic, reproducible, quick coding of large quantities of research materials, as long as there has been sufficient set of examples and a coding manual, researcher generated. The nice thing is that it would have then maybe limited human bias or kind of reduce some of the human bias, but of course it will then involve some LLM bias. Based on whatever training data was, how it was constructed, is it balanced and so on, and also based on the model type. And these things are often things that the social scientist who doesn't understand about language modeling does not know about. So this will need collaborative efforts. But there are also some other parts of the research process where LLMs can be used. For example, generating dictionaries and generating kind of example of phrases that would have some coverage. So we can kind of fathom that there are many tasks or subtasks in the research process that could be applicable for LLMs. And if we think about some of the major kinds of ways of using them, of course, the first often comes to mind is using the chat-based, which can be useful in the prototype generation phase, prototyping ideas or process flows, using a chat-based kind of LLM, as long as the data that you feed it is not sensitive. So this is important. Then the next steps would be to use pre-trained LLMs that are somehow in a kind of controlled environment, such as the CSC, and or locally in people's machines, and which would take care of some of the difficulties or kind of issues that we have with these online models. And the final is adapting a language model based on your particular research theme or training it for your research material specifically. And this is this requires substantial resources and technical expertise and infrastructures. And while I'm talking about what I'm envisioning that they can do, I think it's or even more important is also to consider what they cannot do or kind of remember this as well. They will not replace human from the loop of interpreting and refining. They in particular do not understand the lived experience. So they are just language models until we have a better AI, which maybe can be imagined, but it's not current. And there are a lot of opaque some things are hidden. Training data may be unknown. Outputs may not be reproducible depending on the time. So there are similar difficulties as with a human who codes, and their output varies over time. And they cannot explain why a coding choice was made, or they come back and do it differently when you challenge them, and so on. And then, of course, the data can not always be kept safe using these, or we have to kind of devise particular ways. And I think the afternoon session hopefully will talk about some of these as well. And they will never replace the kind of full dialogical, embodied, relational, qualitative aspects of the research process that we just heard in the earlier talk. So these are not going to be replacing the qualitative researcher's job. Instead, hopefully they will be facilitating the qualitative researcher to make more rounds through the data analysis or approach a larger research material, to think more instead of applying the particular coding over and over, which is really slow, I've learned. Yeah, so I wanted to also do something about this, like hands-on practice. And so there's actually two different projects with different people that I've been working with now, like PhD students who are one of these projects I'm showing here. The other is still not published anything, so I will not talk about that one. But here we took, and Mahdi, who is the first author, is sitting in the middle. Here we took one of the social psychology or positive psychology theories called PERMA, which is trying to describe flourishing, and we applied it, we operationalized it in certain way to apply it to measuring qualities of discussions in Suomi 24. So we wanted to measure qualities, different aspects of well-being, from social media discussions. That was the objective. And for that, we needed to operationalize the theories, concepts. So what is PERMA theory? It is it's from Seligman and their kind of collaborators in positive psychology, about 25 years old. The positive psychology is about that age. The PERMA is slightly newer, and it involves initially five elements: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment, or achievement, sometimes described. And then the sixth dimension is health, to capture psychological, social, and physical well-being as parts of this flourishing. So these are the 6 dimensions that we then that the theory posits, and that have been kind of described in terms of questionnaires or kind of measurable things to question people with. But then here we are interpreting it in terms of language expressions in order to measure these qualities from interactions. And what we did not yet code kind of samples of real conversations with this theory, but what we have done is we have used LLMs for creating a well-being dictionary for each of these 6 elements as an intermediate step for kind of on the mass level of like larger collections of text. We can have a like dictionary-based method and try whether it achieves to find something that kind of seems to correspond with close reading of these conversations. So this is kind of a feasibility test, you could say, of the entire workflow. And the nice thing about this is that when we do it like this, that we create a dictionary by it, the entire approach becomes transparent, because we can then have an expert read, and that's what we did. Expert will read the dictionary and check each word. Is this kind of good enough? Does it communicate this? So expert of the theory can kind of curate the dictionary. So for each of these 6 central concepts, we generate a prospective word list of words, either or maybe sometimes strings of words using an LLM. We prototyped with ChatGPT and produced 100 words per category. And then there was this expert who controlled the quality and checked. And then we just use these dictionaries for measuring. And as further steps along the way of the analysis pathway, we then created a map using the clustering and visualization method called self-organizing map of which kind of displays the different qualities or conversations of the map. Are like in this corner there are conversations that achieved a high value, and the meaning component of PERMA. Here the health discussions were kind of here the health component obtained high values, and so on. So we create a map of conversations, the individual documents, or in this case individual subforums are subforums are somewhere in this map, and then we have labeled it with these qualities that are predominant in those based on our measure. And then we can track, for example, a particular subforums over time. In this, it was ajanviete, like spending time or leisure, and how the conversations in that subforum have changed in the well-being tone throughout the 20 years of this dataset's kind of existence. And it seems that it started from a very high positive emotion and relationship orientation, but then over time it kind of migrated to moderate positive emotion, and then towards a quality of low engagement. So there was a clear shift, and it seems somehow kind of almost systematic that it is actually traversing in time. Yep. And this corresponds with some of the other studies that we have been doing earlier on the emotional kind of feelings or in sentiments in Suomi 24 over time. Here is an example, kind of an excerpt from the dictionary. The dictionary is found online. This is part of an article that I think Mahdi can say, is it approved or is it still conditionally approved right now? Yes, thank you. So Mahdi, if you want a copy of the, you can also contact me or Mahdi, we will send it to you. Okay, so thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, then we can move to one of these afternoon